house was empty, but it didn't feel that way. The air still smelled like dust and old paint, the kind that settles after people stop pretending. Mariah stood in the doorway like she'd been there before, like she belonged. I didn't sit. I didn't take my jacket off. I stayed close to the door because this wasn't a visit. This was a test. She said my name the way she used to. John. Slow. Familiar. Like she was checking if it still worked. And for a second, it did. That's when I understood why she chose this place. Not to talk, to remind me of who I was before everything broke. The living room where we'd planned our future, the kitchen where we'd argued about money, the bedroom upstairs where we'd made promises we couldn't keep. She knew every corner of this house held a version of me that still loved her. Because if she could pull me back into that version of myself, then saying no wouldn't just be hard, it would feel wrong. But what she didn't know was that I had already been warned about her, about Collins, about the lie that destroyed everything. And this empty house, it wasn't going to save her. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why that moment mattered, you need to know how it all fell apart. Let me take you back to the night everything changed.
It was just past 6 p.m. when I walked into our house in Elmhurst. Tired. Phone dead. Another investor call. Gone nowhere. I dropped my laptop bag by the door, expecting to hear the hum of the TV or the clink of a wine glass in the kitchen. Instead, I found Mariah standing in the living room, folding clothes with military precision into her suitcase. She didn't look up. "Going somewhere?" I asked, my voice flat but loud enough to fill the silence. She zipped the suitcase closed without flinching. Cold, emotionless. "I want a divorce, John." I blinked. "What?" Finally, she met my eyes. Not angry, not tearful, just blank, like she'd already moved on and forgot to let me know. "Why?" I asked, trying to process the blow. "You pick now, when everything's fallen apart?" Her voice, sharp, defensive. Mariah crossed her arms. "Exactly. I need something in my life that's not falling apart." My heart thudded against my ribs. Desperate. "So your solution is to pack a bag and leave your husband when he's drowning?" Her voice, icy. "I'm not your lifeguard, John. You gambled everything on a tech dream and lost. You're not the man I married anymore." Angry, bitter. "You mean the man who paid off your student loans, who supported your art studio for 3 years? That man?" Her jaw tightened, her voice dismissive. "This isn't about the past." "It's all about the past," I snapped. "You knew this startup would take everything. You were with me when I took that risk." She looked away, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "I was with a man who had potential. Now you're just clinging to a dead idea." The words hit like a punch, accusatory, trembling. "Have you met someone?" I asked. The air suddenly thick. Pause. Suspension. Mariah froze for half a second. Not long enough for certainty, but too long for comfort. Then she said, "No," defeated, knowing, but I didn't believe her. "Unbelievable," I muttered, pacing. "You wait until I've got a bank account gasping for air, until I'm one legal notice away from bankruptcy, and now you walk." She didn't reply, just wheeled her suitcase toward the door. "I won't beg," I said. "If this is who you are, then go." Madison paused at the door, hand on the knob. "I knew you wouldn't." And then she was gone. Just like that. No tears, no hugs, no parting words. Just silence and a soft click of the door shutting behind her. I stood alone in the middle of the room, surrounded by everything we'd built, everything she'd just walked away from like it was an expired lease. That night, the quiet felt like it had teeth, but I didn't sit down, I didn't scream, I didn't crumble, because something deeper was already taking root in me. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. This was the start of something else. That night, the silence in the house didn't feel like silence. It felt like something alive, creeping into every corner, curling up on the furniture like fog, filling the gaps Mariah used to occupy. I didn't bother turning on the lights, just dropped into the worn leather armchair by the fireplace. The bitter chuckle, the one she used to complain was too masculine for the living room. The room was half lit by the street lamp outside and the pale glow of the microwave clock from the kitchen. I sat there for a long while, still in my jacket, staring straight ahead, at nothing. Then I stood, walked into the kitchen, opened the cabinet above the fridge, and reached for the bottle of whiskey I'd been saving for a win that never came. The cork made a quiet pop, and that soft sound felt louder than it should have in a house that was suddenly too big for one person. I didn't use a glass. I brought the bottle back with me to the armchair, sat down again, and took a slow sip. It burned, but not enough. And then I took another and another. Somewhere around the fourth pull, the thoughts started to take shape. Those jagged little pieces of memory, shame and frustration that had been swirling around my mind like dust in sunlight. The startup. It used to feel like a rocket waiting to launch, full of promise, fueled by passion. But lately, it felt more like a dying animal, gasping for air while I kept trying to resuscitate it with increasingly desperate investor calls and sleepless nights. I opened my phone and stared at the emails I didn't want to read. One subject line, declining your proposal. Another, our fund is pivoting. Another, final notice, outstanding balance. I swiped them all away. Not tonight. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. Maybe she's right, I said aloud, the words tasting like rust. Maybe I'm not the man she married. A floorboard creaked near the hallway. Just the house settling, but it felt like a response. I shook my head, and more quietly, resolved, but I'm still standing. Another drink, another drink. I didn't even want to be drunk. I just didn't want to feel sharp. I reached for my phone again. Her number was still pinned at the top. I stared at it. My thumb hovered, trembling slightly. I didn't call. Instead, I opened my camera roll, scrolling past pictures of her birthday dinner last month, our weekend in Lake Geneva 2 summers ago, the blurry selfie we'd taken in the hospital hallway when my dad passed. I stopped on that one. She had her head on my shoulder. I had tears in my eyes. I stared at it for a long time, then locked the phone and tossed it on the coffee table. The ticking of the clock above the mantel filled the room again. Whispered, tick, tick, tick. I'm not begging, Mariah, because that's the line she crossed. She didn't just leave. She waited until I was cornered, low on money, low on energy, low on hope. And then she walked, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. No explanation, no fight, just clean hands and a suitcase. I closed my eyes and exhaled through my nose. It wasn't even heartbreak that gripped me. It was insult, the quiet kind that burrows under your skin and burns slow. I'd given her everything I had, not just money, but time. Every Sunday coffee run, every late night call from the office, every "I'll be home late again, don't wait up." And now, Now I was sitting in a house we'd bought together, sipping a whiskey she used to hide from guests, trying not to feel like the world had just voted me off the island. But here's the thing. I wasn't going to drown. No matter how deep this storm got, the debt, the silence, the betrayal, I wasn't going under. I poured one last shot into a glass this time, held it up to the streetlight, let the amber catch the glow. To the last man standing, I muttered, and drank it down. Then I picked up the remote, turned on the TV, just loud enough to quiet the clock, and stared at the screen without seeing it, not thinking of what I'd lost, but what I had left to rebuild. So that's where it started, the night Mariah walked out. But what I didn't know then was that her leaving wasn't even the worst betrayal, because the next morning I walked into my office and the second shoe dropped. If you want to know what happened next, make sure you're subscribed, because don't forget to like this video, drop a comment telling me what you would have done in John's position, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.
Last time on the betrayal I never saw coming. I want a divorce, John. Have you met someone? Mariah left, just like that. No warning, no mercy. But that was only the beginning. It was still raining when I stepped into the office that Tuesday morning, the kind of soft, persistent rain that made the city feel like it was under a gray tarp. The lobby was quiet. No receptionist, no deliveries, just the low hum of fluorescent lights and that wet paper smell from the old carpet we kept promising to replace. Elevator ding. I took the elevator to the 5th floor, our floor, and when the doors opened, I was greeted by the echo of my own footsteps. The office was half empty now. Half the desks were pushed to the side, some monitors disconnected. The intern table was gone. Even the big whiteboard where we used to sketch product roadmaps sat blank, a smudge of forgotten ideas. Collins was already there, hunched over a mug of coffee at the far end of the room. His sleeves rolled up, same gray hoodie he always wore when things were tight. He didn't look up when I walked in. I dropped my bag by my desk, exhaled, and walked over. Mariah left, I said simply. Collins looked up slowly, squinting like he hadn't slept much. What? She's gone, I repeated. Packed her suitcase, said she wants a divorce. That was Sunday night. For a second, he just sat there. Then he rubbed the back of his neck and leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. Man, I'm sorry, he said, voice quiet. That's rough. You two were, I thought you were solid. Yeah, me too, I muttered. A long silence fell between us, the kind where something unspoken creeps in and settles like dust. Then Collins set his mug down, folded his hands, and looked me dead in the eye.
I've been meaning to talk to you, he started. My stomach tightened. He glanced away briefly, then back again. I think I'm going to pull out of the company. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. You're what? I said, trying to keep my tone level. I want to cash out my stake, he said. I've been thinking about it for a while, with everything slowing down, the funding drying up, the delays. I think it's time. I stared at him, blinking. The rain tapped at the window behind him, like a ticking clock. You're serious? He nodded. I've got a job offer lined up already, product director at a fintech firm, more stable, bigger team. They move fast. It's a lifeboat. That's what it is, I cut in. Collins didn't deny it. I turned and walked over to the window. The city below looked like a photograph left in the rain, blurry, distant. Collins behind me, justifying. Look, John, Collins said behind me. You know I've had your back for a long time. We built this thing together. But it's not working anymore. You know it. The market shifted. We missed our window. I can't sync with the ship just because I helped build it." I didn't answer, just watched a cab roll through the intersection, its yellow shape smeared in the puddles like a broken crayon. "You always said we were partners," I said quietly. "Thick and thin. That's what you told me the day we signed the first lease. I meant it, but this isn't personal." I turned around, looked at him. "That's the problem, man. It should be." He looked away. I didn't argue, didn't yell.
What was the point? People leave, sometimes fast, sometimes quiet. Sometimes they even call it a favor. "I'll have the paperwork drawn up," Collins said, standing. "You'll get my shares. I just want out clean." He grabbed his jacket and paused at the door. "Take care of yourself, John." Then he walked out. I sat down, leaned back in the chair, and stared out the window again. First Mariah, now Collins, and me, still standing in a building that was starting to feel just as hollow as everything else I had left. That was the day I realized something. Betrayal doesn't always come with shouting or slamming doors. Sometimes it's quiet, polite, wrapped in apologies and business terms. And somehow, that makes it worse. It was raining again the morning of the hearing. I remember thinking the weather matched the whole mood. Gray, wet, and just heavy enough to keep your shoulders slightly hunched. Like even the sky didn't want to look anyone in the eye. The courthouse was quiet when I walked in, just the hum of security machines and a few voices echoing off marble walls. I wore the only decent suit I still owned, charcoal, pressed, but tighter than it used to be. I'd lost weight, didn't even realize how much, until I caught my reflection in the security glass. Mariah was already in the courtroom. She didn't look surprised to see me walk in. She looked prepared. Hair tied back, expensive coat, her lawyer beside her, flipping through papers with the confidence of someone who was paid by the hour and never missed a comma. She didn't look at me right away. I took my seat next to my own lawyer, a quiet guy named Peter, who spoke more with a raised eyebrow than with actual words. The judge entered. Case of Harlow versus Harlow. We stood, then sat again. Her lawyer started things off, with a tone so smooth it could have been mistaken for sympathy. "Your Honor, Mrs. Harlow is entitled to half of all marital assets, including the equity in Mr. Harlow's business, regardless of current financial performance. That company was built during their marriage. She's not asking for more than her fair share, only what she legally deserves." I didn't look at her, not at first. Peter leaned over. "They're going for the kill." "I know," I said softly. "Let 'em." The judge turned to us. "Mr. Harlow, your response." I stood. My voice didn't shake. "Your Honor, I'm not contesting the divorce. I'm not here to drag this out. I'm willing to give Mariah the house and the car. All I ask is that I keep the company. What's left of it." There was a pause. The judge raised an eyebrow. "The valuation of your business, as submitted, shows a significant loss." "Yes, ma'am," I replied. "We're down to almost nothing. I know what I'm holding on to, but it's mine to rebuild or bury." I finally turned to Mariah. She stared straight ahead, eyes unreadable. "I just want to keep the thing I poured everything into," I said. "If she wants the rest, she can have it." Peter shifted beside me, surprised. Even the judge leaned back slightly, as if she hadn't expected that level of clarity from someone who looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. Mariah's lawyer cleared his throat. "My client will accept the proposal." The judge nodded. "So noted." Pause. I could have just sat down, but I didn't. Instead,
I turned fully to Mariah and spoke loud enough for the room to hear. "Thank you," I said, "for the years we had. I wish they'd ended differently." Her jaw tightened. Continued, quiet. "Whatever happens next, I mean that, even if I never understand why you left." She looked at me then, briefly, but she didn't speak. I nodded once, turned to the judge. That's all. The judge was quiet for a beat, before offering a rare, almost respectful, "You're dismissed." As I walked out, I didn't feel lighter, I didn't feel stronger, but I felt intact. And sometimes, that's enough to build from. So that's how it ended. The marriage, the partnership, everything I thought was solid. Gone. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. Eventually, you stop falling. And in the next episode, you'll meet the person who reminded me what it felt like to stand again. Someone I never expected. If you want to know who saved me when I had nothing left, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and I'll see you in episode 3, where everything starts to change.